So good morning, folks. My name is John Meredith. I am your instructor for this class. I've turned on my video camera so you can put a face to a name. And as I usually tell my students, if you see this guy begging off the highway, please give generously. But like I said, I've been with Sumo here be about 2 years in January. And I've been training in the role here of a trainer for a long time. Additionally, I have also worked as an IT manager, a programmer, a network admin, all kinds of fun stuff. And again, folks are still racing in. Some of you may have noticed when you come in here that we're now recording this session, and we are recording this session. It is available to you. We will actually probably make it, send it out to you, but I will also show you where you can see other recordings of this session in case you want to share this with your colleagues and friends and all that good stuff. So the only thing I ask as your instructor, as your guide for this, is if you've got a question, please ask your question. So that's what we're here for. We're here to help you and let you use Sumo quite effectively. And so feel free, like I said, to ask any question you have related to Sumo or not. If it's something that's probably something we're not going to cover, I'll mention that, and maybe we'll talk about it offline, that sort of thing. But I want to try to help you out here. Just so you know, we've got about 62 attendees. We had about a little over 100 registered for the class, so 60 out of 100 I'll take. That's a pretty good haul. And again, this is your class, so feel free to steer me in the right direction, or any specific questions or issues you have, let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to stop my video recording, or my video there. And let's go ahead and get this party started. By the way, one other thing, I've asked many of you where you are located, where you're taking the class from geography-wise. I am teaching the class from my home here in Bedford, New Hampshire. So I'm on the US East Coast. In fact, this week we are teaching classes. We're teaching this fundamentals class twice. Once now, and then we'll teach it once in the afternoon for the West Coast. And then tomorrow we'll be teaching the search mastery class in the morning, same time. And then we'll teach it in the afternoon for the West Coast. And then the admin class we'll teach on Thursday, again, 10 o'clock East Coast time. And then also later in the afternoon. So George, I'm not sure if you go by George or you go by Jose, but you're in Hancock, New Hampshire. That's very interesting. So is one of our documentation folks. One of the folks that does our documentation, David Duke, is also in Hancock. He moved there and bought a house out there about a year ago. And so, but yeah, small world. So, yep. And Tom mentions he's from Silver Springs, Maryland. Yep, they're DC. Yeah, been there. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about our agenda, if you don't mind. And by the way, if you want to, feel free to put where you're located. That's fine. That's great. Feel free to put it in the chat box. It's a great way of communicating. And that way we all know where we live, in the sense of, there may be somebody here in the class that's pretty close to you. So, that's great. Our agenda, though, while we're doing that, is we're going to talk about an overview of what Sumo Logic is. What is Sumo Logic, and what can it do for me? Then we're going to talk about, do a demonstration of Sumo, and we're going to be able to use Sumo to kind of troubleshoot and identify a problem. So, and then we're actually going to get into some hands-on labs. So at that point in time, we're going to log into our training environment, and we will go ahead and play in our training environment. And you're welcome to use that training environment not only today in today's class, but you're also welcome to use it from time to time if you want to do any of our other classes or any of other labs, that sort of thing. So I'll show you where all that stuff is. So it looks like a lot of folks have put where they're located. Thank you very much. Like I said, the labs, we're going to do a talk about viewing our collection of data here. What kind of data do we have? How can we see that? Then we'll talk about search, parsing, and analyzing our data and querying our data. Then we'll start building out a dashboard here and do some trend analysis and talk a little bit about monitoring things. And then we'll talk about, creating dashboards and creating an alert. Now, my plan is in about an hour and probably 8 minutes or so to take a break. So the first question people always ask in a class is, when are we going to get a break? So I'm looking to do it at a 11:15 is my target. Okay. The second question, or the second thing I want you to be aware of, is that we're going to run about 2 hours of lecture and lab, and then we've got a certification exam that you all can take. And we highly encourage you to take the certification exam. One, because it's fairly easy. And number two, I'm going to help try to coach you up for the exam. And I'll be here while you're taking that exam. So if you get hung on a question, you get stuck on a question, you can just ask. And we'll try to help you steer you in the right direction to get you the answer. Okay. So we do encourage you in that way. You can start your Sumo certification process. Speaking of Sumo certification process, just to sweeten the deal up a little bit, if you do take the exam today and you pass it, then you can send us an email to training@sumologic.com, a copy of your certificate, and we will send you an Uber Eats voucher. So there you go. Have lunch on us. So you said, when you take the exam and pass it, I'll show you how you get your certificate and all that good stuff. And you take a copy of that certificate and you send it to us, send it to training@sumologic.com. And within 48 hours, we'll send you a $15 Uber Eats voucher. What could be cool? It may take us 48 hours to get that. We may turn it around much quicker. Just depends on how things go. Okay. Let me just check here and see if there's no messages. Good. All right. The other thing too is that we've got the total number of 10 certifications. 3 of those certifications we will be teaching this week. Like I said, today we've got fundamentals. Tomorrow we've got search mastery, and then Thursday we've got administration. And then next month we're going to do 3 more, just like this, but they'll be focused on either security or DevOps. I can't remember which. And then the following months, the other security DevOps. The point is, we're going to do 9 certification classes over the next 3 months. And if you get 6 of those certification classes or 6 certifications, we can send you a backpack. So there's a little form here that you get to fill out. And if you want, I will give you my contact information and you can reach out to me and I will provide you the link to the form. Obviously, you probably don't want it now. One little caveat to this, I do need to provide complete disclosure. For those of you in the US and Canada, there's no problem with shipping you these things. It's fairly easy. For those of you who are overseas, for example, in India and things like that, we have a problem in the fact that two problems. Number one, the shipping cost, it costs more than the backpack. And number two, you also have to pay excise tax on it. So that's a little bit of a problem for us. And we don't want to, have you suffer. So we just want you to make sure you're aware of that. But for those of you in the US and Canada, this is not a problem. Also, one of the things for those of you in India, because I saw a couple of you from India in the chat box, I also don't believe that Uber Eats does not exist in India. So we are currently trying to find and work with a Indian-based company like an Uber Eats to set that up for folks in India. Okay. Just wanted you to be aware of that. All right. So what is Sumo Logic and how does Sumo Logic help me? Right. Well, Sumo Logic is a continuous intelligence platform. Okay. Well, what does that mean? Once upon a time, I was an IT manager and I used to come in every morning at about an hour early. And I used to check my logs, my backup log to make sure that my backups ran, my Active Directory logs to see who got themselves locked out and things like that. I checked my email logs to see what emails I had bouncing and all that. Had I had Sumo Logic back in the day, what took me 45 minutes to an hour, I could have done probably in about 5 minutes or less. So with Sumo Logic, we ingest logs and metrics and various other data so we can see how your systems are doing. So under operational intelligence here, I can see how my system's up, are my certain services running, certain services failing, what is happening in my environment. And today's world with cloud and stuff like that, whether you're on cloud or prem, it doesn't make any difference. But with cloud, where you've got all these different environments and all these different microservices and stuff, boy, that can be kind of tough to keep track of. And so with Sumo Logic, we make it very easy, very transparent for you to be able to see that. Additionally, under the area of security intelligence, we can see where people are logging in from, right? Are they logging in from the right area? Are they logging in from some fictitious company or some strange country that that shouldn't be logging in from? So we can see where people are logging in from. We can see our firewall activities, our port activities, things like that. We can see what kind of environments they're logging in from, whether it's an operating system or a browser, that sort of thing. So we get an idea of security here, what aspects of security. And we have a whole nother product with regards to our Cloud SIEM enterprise. Cloud SIEM, SIEM, stands for Security Information and Event Management. And I think it's either next month or the month after, we'll be hosting a bunch of classes on that. We also have various business intelligence aspects. So for example, if you've got a website or if your customers are purchasing things, hey, what are they purchasing? What are they not purchasing? How are they purchasing them? What are they interested in? That sort of thing. And then here over the far right, we've got global intelligence. And global intelligence looks at a very high level of our operational intelligence, security intelligence, and business intelligence. And so, but we see that at a very high level. So for example, if we have some customers who have AWS guard duty, and AWS guard duty lets us know that there's an attack going on somewhere in the world, we can see perhaps what the impact of that attack is, again, at a very high level. So, and then of course, there's the various roles that people have, right? Whether you're in DevOps or SecOps or, you're an IT person or whatever, I think you'll find this product meets your needs with what you might want to be interested in. And then, of course, your data comes from various applications. Again, log data, metric data, that sort of thing. Could come from various microservices. Maybe you're on the cloud. Maybe you're doing software as a service. Is there a question? Somebody's got a mic open. So, actually, a whole bunch of folks have joined us. Good morning and welcome. Let me just enable microphones here, folks, and I'll continue on with my presentation. Okay. I'm going to mute some folks here. There we go. Sorry, I said mute y'all because I was getting some feedback there. And Derek, let you enable your microphone there. Okay, so again, back to the Sumo Logic. What is Sumo Logic and why do we care? Again, you might be on the cloud, maybe AWS, maybe Azure, maybe Google Cloud Platform. We don't discriminate. We don't care. Or maybe you're using some software as a service like Salesforce or Office 365. Of course, in your company, you've got data coming from mobile devices. We can ingest all of that information here. We can ingest all of that information. Okay, no problem, Derek. No sweat. Anyway, you'll find that Sumo Logic is born in the clouds. We actually run on AWS. And so we support multi-tenancy, we support scalability and elasticity. So as your company may need more resources from our environment, we'll just sign them up for you. And then if you don't need those resources, we'll scale it back. And so we'll maintain your environment for you. It's a cloud-based, our product is obviously cloud-based, and therefore we'll take care of all that. You'll find that in today and tomorrow's classes, you'll see we've got a lot of machine learning, a lot of advanced analytics in our product. You'll see some of that today. And then we also have a bunch of APIs, application programming interfaces, where you can programmatically do things like create collectors or add users and things along those lines using our APIs. But probably the most important thing on this slide is our crown jewel, which is over here. These are the various outside certifications that we have achieved and maintain to ensure that when your data is in Sumo Logic, it is protected, it is safe, it is secure. So we are SOC 2 compliant, we are PCI compliant. About 6-7 months ago, we received our FedRAMP moderate authorization, so for the US government. And so, like I said, these are the various certifications that we hold. So that hopefully gives you a little overview of what Sumo Logic is about. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go into a little exercise, a little demo, and I'm going to walk you through probably, hopefully, the value of Sumo Logic. So if you'll bear with me just a second here, I'm going to fire up Slack. And you know what? Here in my Slack environment, on my Slack demo channel, by the way, I have some alerts. Oh my gosh. I have errors over the last 7 days. I've got an issue. So Slack is notifying me that I've got an issue. And this could have been through Teams. This could have been through anywhere. Doesn't really make any difference. But I'm seeing that, gee, I'm getting notified that I've got a problem. Okay. And I could click on these buttons and open up my respective dashboard. But since I haven't done that, I mean, I could click on those, but I would normally go into my Sumo Logic environment. Now, this is my Sumo Logic demo environment. It's not our training environment, and I'll have you log into that in just a little bit. But here on the Sumo Logic demo environment, I can see here under production for Travel Logic, I can see here under my operations, because that's really what I'm focused on, there is a dashboard here called Operational Overview. And this operational overview is giving me a series of panels, which is indicating to me various statuses. So bear with me a second while it loads up. Probably should have clicked on it earlier to reload this. I'm not sure why it's taking so long. It usually doesn't. There we go. Okay. Now, back to my Slack message. I could have clicked on this button right here, which would have taken me to this dashboard. Now, at this dashboard, what I'm looking at here is I see various colors and indications of green is good, red is bad, yellow is questionable. And so I see, for example, here my elastic load balancer has over 10,000 5XX errors, okay? And we don't know what's causing those 5XX errors. Down here, my checkout service has over 3,000 errors. And again, this is over the last 60 minutes. So that's definitely not a good sign. And then I've got some issues getting stuck in the job queue. So the point is, each one of these panels represents a query. And these queries are telling me, give me an overview, if you will, of how my environment is doing. Now, what I want to do is I want to focus on this checkout service issue. And so what I can do is I can click on this checkout service issue, and it takes me to another dashboard in here called my services detail. And again, if I go back to my message here, I could have clicked on the services detail and it would have taken me there. But here I am looking at my services detail. And each one of these panels, again, represents a query. Now, this particular query in the upper left is my bookings. And I can, if I want to, turn off failures, so I only see successes. So as it happens, I've got a lot of people who are booking, they're successfully booking. But when I turn on my failures, I see that at a particular time here this morning, I started getting some failures. So right here about 9:24, I started getting some failures, something happened. And then what's really drives you crazy is this problem went away. And so it's like, oh gosh, this is one of those mystery problems that comes and goes. And so we're going to sit and troubleshoot this and see what's happening. But I can see here, like I said, that I've got some failures. And these failures are obviously means people cannot book their travel. By the way, let me back up. I apologize. Travel Logic is a company that runs on AWS. It's a fictitious company where people can book flights, hotels, and cars. And so you and I can book travel here through this Travel Logic site. And what's happening is obviously people are not able to make their bookings. They're not able to complete their transaction. And therefore, I'm losing business. This is not a good day. All right. So I want to fix this. And that's what we're going to do here. That's what this example is for. When I look down here at this panel is showing me the errors over the last 7 days. And so, for example, here I can see that I had a series of errors, said from about 9:24, 9:25 to about 10:41 or 9:41. Okay. I can turn off my errors for today, and I see that my errors 2 days ago or my errors 4 days ago didn't exist. So this is a brand new problem that suddenly has reared its ugly head. And when I go down here to this panel, I can see here that my worker node and the number of errors by node here, I've got 233 errors by node. Down here, I can see that I'm generating some latency as far as, taking some time to process the transaction. I can also see my latency information up here with regards to what's happening. And then up here, I can see my CPU and total memory. So for example, here, this orange line is, looks like it's my CPU utilization. And then my memory usage is this dashed line. And I can see my travel checkout service as far as it's starting to spike. So this is my travel checkout service that's causing some problems. Now, obviously what I want to do here is investigate this a bit further. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up this query. So I'm going to click on this icon. And in clicking on this icon, it takes me to the underlying query. Now in this underlying query, you'll see that I am looking at some metric information. Specifically, I am looking at my CPU utilization here, CPU total max by node. So that's what this is displaying, my CPU max by nodes. And you'll see that most of my CPUs are down here fairly low. But I've got this spike that's occurring. Additionally, I'm also looking at my memory utilization. And again, my memory utilization is this dashed line. And again, it's fairly low for most of this, but up here during this time, it's fairly high. And then on top of it down here, I'm also correlating this with logs. So here I've got in my logs here, I'm looking at my travel checkout logs. Specifically, I'm looking for the words error or exception. And with the words error exception, this now creates this little heat map up here. So this orange bar that we see as a correlation between my metrics and how they're doing and my logs where I'm looking for the words error exception. The more times I see the word error exception, the darker my orange becomes. So in this 1 minute here, starting at 9:26, I had 229 messages with the word error exception in it. The following minute, I had 226 messages also. It's kind of funny how it winds up being the same number. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to investigate that. Okay. Derek says there's 4 separate queries being run on this single graph. There are actually, I think, 3 separate queries, one being my CPU by average by node, max by node, excuse me, one being my memory utilization, and then I'm also correlating my logs. Now, I can have more than that or less than that if I want to. So I could add another log query here, I could add things. But basically, this is trying to tell me a story. So Derek, I hope that answers your question, sir. All right. So what I want to do is I want to investigate this further. By the way, one test question that you will see, it will talk about when you're looking at a metric graph or something like that, and you see this orange area. This orange area is the correlation between your metric data and your log data. And that's what it's trying to show you. And again, you'll see that in the form of a test question. So want to try to prepare you for that. Now, metrics are really cool because metrics tell us what is going on, but logs ultimately tell us why it is happening. And so what I want to do is I'm going to go into this first orange cube here on my heat map. I'm going to hold down my shift button and I'm going to click in here. And this is going to take me into my logs because my logs will always tell me what is going on, why things are happening. Okay. And when I look here, you'll see that immediately down here in my messages area, I have errors, I have logs, I have things here. So things that I can troubleshoot. Now there's only one problem. When I clicked on that button, it's only showing me 1 minute worth of time. So I want to change this back to 60 minutes. And I'm going to rerun this. So this is my log interface. This is where I can query my logs and get stuff. So here, when I'm looking for the words error exception, I see that, starting about 60 minutes ago, I had, lots and lots of messages here that are showing up. And then all of a sudden this problem went away. And down below, I can start seeing my messages. Now, the only problem with this is this will tell me probably what is causing my error, or what my error is all about, but it may not show me what caused my error, okay? Because I'm only seeing those messages that have the word error or the word exception on them. So I'm going to remove the word error or exception, and I'm going to rerun this. Again, I can click the enter key on my keyboard, or I can click on this button to rerun this. And now I see that I've got a lot of messages here, But now I've got some other normal messages here, and these could be informational messages. These could be we boot the system up messages. These could be a lot of different things. Now, in fact, there are 24,753 messages. That's what this number here tells me. It's a number of messages I have down here. Now, there's about 25 per page, about 991 pages. And I, for one, don't want to go through every one of these. Unfortunately, with Sumo Logic, you don't have to. If I click this log reduce button, what it's going to do is it's going to combine my like messages together. So it's going to combine my like messages together here. It may take a few seconds here to run, about 45 seconds or so. Right now, it's got about 24,000 messages. Okay, it's done. Here's my 24,282 messages. Of that 24,000, 11,000 are this message. Now, this message is an informational message. It's maybe a trace statement or something that the programmer wanted to put in there that gets recorded to logs for whatever reason. So this is an informational message. This is an informational message, et cetera, et cetera. Down here, I'm starting to get error messages. That's what I want to investigate. So here, again, out of my 24,282 messages, I have about 822 of these messages. And this error message says bad handshake, SSL routine. I get server certificate, server verification failed. Okay. For those of you who are familiar with credit card transactions and PKI, you know that you make a connection to the PCI system that's going to approve your transaction. And all the data is encrypted using a server certificate. So we're going to encrypt the data with using a server certificate. And apparently our server certificate is invalid. There's a problem with it. Something's wrong with it. Okay. And so now I get an idea of where I want to focus my attention. Maybe I want to talk to my network operations center. Maybe I want to go check out that server directly. And I want to look at that server certificate because that server certificate is failing. So I now know why I'm getting these errors, but I don't know what caused this. And so sometimes you can, I can, we can go up here and bear with me a second while I change this around. Well, I know that's what's throwing me off. The count here, I want to flip the count. So instead of looking at high numbers, I'm looking at low numbers. And I want to go down here. And again, most of this stuff's all informational, which is all fine, well, and good. We go to the next page. Okay. What I'm looking for is when I booted up this environment. And it looks like I booted it up probably some time ago. So let me just make this a little bit longer here of a time. And because what I'm looking for is when we booted it up, I'm going to find that, flip it here real quick, put it in ascending order. What I'm going to find is that we actually promoted, here it is, my dev environment to my prod environment. So we're in the cloud and our development team decided to promote one of our dev environments to our prod environment, and they didn't change the certificate. So just bear with me a second while this thing finishes up. Like I said, it's going after 3 hours worth of data. There we go. Finally finished up. Good. All right. And I'm going to show you, here's the message I'm looking for. So this message right here shows me that we booted up the system. And we brought up prod 08 production environment. The problem is the version here is 1.14 dev. Now this is a prod environment. We don't take dev environments and move them to prod. Or if we do, we need to change the certificate. Brad, is there a question, sir? See somebody raise their hand.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. What's the question?
I just have a comment. This
Okay.
log reduce function is so amazing. If I knew about this before, this would have changed my life. Like on my dashboards in Sumo, this is a huge game changer.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear that. Excellent. Excellent. Good. Yeah, like I said, it does a nice job. By the way, let me take a segue here if you don't mind. Log reduce, like I said, will combine your liked logs, your formatted logs. Log compare will basically do a log reduce and compare it with another time frame. So just since we talked about log reduce here, if I do a log compare, it's going to basically look at my last 3 hours, and it's going to do a log reduce on that. Then it's going to go back here 24 hours, go back 3 hours and do a log reduce on that. And then it's going to compare the two logs. So if you love log reduce, I suspect you're going to love log compare just as much, because now I can quickly see my percentages of change. Are things getting better, things getting worse, that sort of thing. So if you're looking at your security logs and stuff, this is very handy and very helpful. And of course, you can change this to another time frame. Maybe instead of going back the previous day, you want to go back 7 days or whatever. So hopefully you guys get a chance to see what is going on and see the power of Sumo. Okay. For example, this error went up 536%. Think it's something I need to worry about? Yeah, I think it is. So something I obviously want to troubleshoot, investigate, and all that good stuff. Now, back to my issue. Remember, I mentioned that the problem here was that somebody took a dev environment, put it to prod. Well, you know what? What we could do is we could, maybe if we built and took our dev logs, we could take information from our dev logs and bring it in so that maybe we see who did our recent builds. And we can see maybe who promoted this dev environment to prod. And then maybe we can ask poor Jack here, hey, Jack, when you promoted the dev environment to prod, did you remember to change the certificate? Oh, no, I didn't. Well, we got a bunch of errors because of that, Jack. Lost some business. So let's make sure we add it to our process. And so I guess my message to you is, once you use this to kind of identify problems, then you can look at other system logs, your development logs and other things, bring those in to find out more information and maybe improve your process. And again, see things from a more holistic perspective rather than just trying to troubleshoot simple stuff. And this is where we start getting into the concept of observability. Okay. So that's what we're really all about today, is observing across your environment so that you can see what's happening. Any questions about this demo?
Could you show us how to do the log reduce one more time? I'm sorry,
Sure.
the drill down, not the log reduce. How do we drill down?
Drill down. Okay, yeah. So I did a couple of drill downs, but let's show you. Here in my metric, the way I did this drill down was I clicked on this 1 minute box here, and I held my shift key down and clicked on it. And that takes me to my underlying logs.
I see.
That was one drill down. The other drill down we had was in our dashboard. We actually connected this. If I click on this, we connected it in the dashboard to go into that other dashboard. So that could be another form of drill down.
Cool.
Okay. So yeah, you can connect your dashboards, and then within either a metric query or a log query, you'll find that you can very easily filter and check and do various things. So for example, here I'm looking at, again, my checkout logs, specifically for the word error exception. If I notice there is a specific function name that I want to investigate, I could, down here, by the way, this is called the field browser. And then this function name, I could click on, say, charge, and now it's going to filter this query based on the charge. And so you'll find it's pretty easy to move around here and filter things to see the various messages that might be happening. Okay. By the way, go ahead.
The log reduce function, someone had interrupted me while I was trying to pay attention to that. Did you just click that button that says log reduce, basically?
That's all I did. Yep.
Okay, and then what it does, correct me if I'm wrong, is it automatically filters like results, so you see them based, so they're not just all randomized. Is that
correct? It combines your like results. That's correct.
okay? Awesome. That's all I need to know. Thank you.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Thank you for asking. Okay.
Hey, John,
Okay.
I
Yeah.
raised my hand. I don't know if you saw it or not in the chat, but the log compare, does that like refresh? What's the refresh rate on that? Is it maybe I missed that when you were talking about it?
Okay, I'm
when
not
you
sure what you
log
mean by
compare,
the refresh rate. You mean as far as how the query runs, or?
yeah, no. So when you run it, right, and it will show like the percentage of like if you click it right now,
Yep, yep.
and then it will break the logs down and it will compare one set of logs to another and
Yep.
see how you get the count. And then
Mhm.
there's like, I thought there's like a percentage that shows like, oh, okay, this many these type of messages are this percentage of what we found. And then
Right.
is that just like a snapshot? Like that, does that like update automatically, or am I don't know if I'm asking that properly.
Yeah, I understand. This, I could obviously manually initiate a refresh of this query and the results by clicking this button.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But I can also go over here and you'll find this a little later. When I do a save as, I can also schedule this. So I could take this query and schedule it and have it run every 10 minutes, every hour, every whatever. And then these results would automatically update.
Okay.
Okay. Now, another thing, if I put this into a dashboard and I put the dashboard in live mode, I can again schedule it to refresh at a certain period of time. So
That I think you just said that's what I was trying to get to. Like, because
Right.
if we have this data and we're presenting this to the business and they can see, or maybe more of our developers, they could see that like, okay, clearly there is an issue and you can see the actual messages increase as time goes on, right? The bad ones.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And then Karen also asked, is there a way to sort by the percentage increase? Yes, you could sort by your percentage increase and stuff if you want to. These don't have any percentage increases because they're all new messages. Because remember, I filtered for charge, and so therefore it's only reflecting my charge. But yes, you can sort by this percentage, and you can filter by that percentage, and you can do all kinds of neat things. So yeah, we're just touching the surface here. So good question, Karen. Thank you for asking. There's something in the chat box. Let's see what we got here. Okay, yeah, 24 hours. I can change this time frame, this time shift to whatever I want. So, and again, in tomorrow's class, the search mastery, we're actually going to go into more detail on the log reduce and the log compare. Just so you know, I've only got so much time to talk about various things here. By the way, you notice I've got a bunch of tabs open as I troubleshoot. I could close them up individually one at a time, but that would be painful. On any tab, there's these 3 vertical dots, which is called the more action button. Some people call it the kebab. But if you click on the kebab, if you will, and you see there's an option to close all tabs, kind of clean it up, nice and neat. Okay. So the point is, as I wanted to show you here in this demonstration, how we went from an alert, Slack alert, team alert, whatever, to looking at a high level dashboard, to digging into our metrics. And again, metrics tell us what is going on. You'll see that in the form of a test question. And then ultimately we're investigating, going to the logs, and the logs will tell us why it is happening. And so this is true. It is always true. Logs tell us why, and metrics typically tell us what. So there is that. So any questions so far? All right. Then as far as Sumo Logic and playing with Sumo Logic goes, there are 3 particular phases of Sumo Logic. There is the data collection phase, the phase where we get data into Sumo Logic, right? We're going to use something called collectors and something called sources. Collectors, their job is to simply encrypt, compress, and send. They are the highway under which your data is going to come to Sumo. Okay. And there are 2 types of collectors. There's hosted collectors and there's installed collectors. Hosted collectors, if you're on the cloud, AWS, or you're on a cloud-based environment like Office 365, those are already hosted by us. You don't have to install anything. You don't have to worry about them. The installed collectors, if you're on-prem, you've got a bunch of servers that you physically own and you want to grab data from them, you would wind up using an installed collector. And again, the collector does the same job. It compresses and encrypts and it sends to Sumo Logic. That's all it does. Now, within those collectors, you're going to have sources. What logs do you want? If you're on AWS, do you want your AWS CloudTrail data? Do you want your S3 bucket data? Do you want, what kind of data do you want? If you're on Azure, do you want your network monitor stuff? What data, what logs, what metrics and stuff do you want? That's what your sources are, the specific information that you're getting. Okay. Somebody said they joined a little bit later. We discussed how dashboards are created. Nope. In fact, we're going to get into it in just a minute. So good question. We haven't gotten there yet. So here, then once we get data coming in, then we can start writing queries. So we are going to write log queries or metric queries. And we are going to start using operators to kind of aggregate so we can get visualizations, bar charts, map charts, area charts, bar charts, pie charts, all kinds of nice visualizations, right? But basically as a result of our query. Then we can take those query results and we can add them and build dashboards. And so this is where we will start building dashboards. And obviously in this class, we're going to go through all three of these phases. And then we can also generate alerts as well. And I'm not sure how much time I'm going to have to go into the details of alerts, but I will try to take you through some alerts and some things like that. Okay. Somebody asked, how do we see an overview of our sources? Well, you know what? We're going to do that in lab number 1. So I'm going to show you 2 different ways to do that. So Nadja, thank you for asking. Just give me about 5 minutes or so and we will get there. Okay. So as far as the collectors go, as I said, we've got hosted collectors, which are ones that we maintain, you don't have to worry about, right? Microsoft Azure, Google Cloud Platform, AWS, maybe you're running Salesforce. These all have hosted collectors that we maintain, we take care of for you. Test question, right? Hosted collectors are things that we maintain, we take care of. They're maintained by Sumo Logic. Now, if you've got a bunch of old legacy stuff, some servers and stuff, you get to install your collectors. So you can install them all on each machine that you want to grab log or metric data from, or you can install a consolidated installed collector. And in that consolidated installed collector, you can then have these machines forward their logs to this machine. It will then compress, encrypt, and send to the Sumo Logic cloud. And so you can configure it. In the administration class is where we teach you how to do the collectors and whether you want to go with a single collector on each machine or you want to go with a consolidated, what the restrictions and values are. So just to give you an idea. Okay. Yep. All right. The other thing, of course, because we are grabbing all this data and stuff like that, we have some metadata tags. Now, of course, metadata is not a Sumo Logic term. It's an industry term, right? Everybody uses the term metadata. It is the information about your data. That's what metadata means. You'll find that we created some built-in metadata tags. So when you create a collector, I create a collector, I can reference all the information from it by saying _collector equals, and then the name of that collector. Or if I create a source, _source equals, and the name of that source. Now, again, test question coming up here. _source name is the name and path of the log file. You'll see this, perhaps most of you will see this. We have a big bank of questions. You won't see them all, but some of you will see a question related to what does source name give me or whatever. And that's the name and the path of the log file. Now, all of these are not bolded. This one is. So this one must be important. We incorporate into our product this metadata tag called source category. And you can organize your information by using this source category field. For example, many of you probably have a prod environment, you have a dev environment, you have a QA environment, a UAT environment. So you could start here with prod or UAT or dev or whatever. And then within that, you can put a slash, and you can say within that, I have maybe my authentication servers, or maybe I've got my web servers, or maybe I've got my Apache servers, whatever you want, you can break it down within that environment. And then you can put another slash in there and specify even a further breakdown if you want to, as many slashes as you want to break this down. This makes it easy for folks to understand where my data is coming from if you've kind of got it organized. So now what I'd like you all to do is I'd like you all to log into our training environment. So first thing I'd like you to do is I'd like you to bring up Google Chrome or Firefox, and I'd like you to go to service.sumologic.com. That's service.sumologic.com. I am pasting this information in the chat box, just so you know. And by the way, while I'm doing that, let me also put in my contact information. Now, we just changed our password for this month. So we just did that last night. So good news, this password is good for the next month until we get into December. There's my contact information. Now, so again, I want you to go to service.sumologic.com. So if you bear with me here just a second, I'm going to switch over to my training environment and I'm going to log out so that I'm in the same place you're in. So if you go to service.sumologic.com, it should take you some page that looks something like this. Then what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to pick a 3-digit number, anywhere from 001 to 999, okay? And I'd like you to type it in the chat box. I don't care what number you pick, I'm just trying to avoid duplication. Mark already grabbed 007. Yeah, there's always somebody, usually from the UK, that grabs good old 007, so that's fine. So pick a number, 3-digit number. Just for fun, I will grab 603. You may ask, why would John want 603? I live in New Hampshire. State area code here is 603. So maybe I'll grab 603. And you're going to log in as Training Plus Analyst, assuming I can spell, with that 3-digit number at sumologic.com. That is going to be your login information. And by the way, for my friend in Hancock, New Hampshire, I will give this number up in just a second. So you're going to log in as Training Plus Analyst with whatever number you want at sumologic.com. And then the password is, it just changed. It's not security 21 anymore. It is in honor of Thanksgiving. Thanks 21 exclamation mark. Thanks 21 exclamation mark. And you should be able to log in. All right. So you should be able to log in, and I've logged in, and boom, there we go. Off we go to the races. Now, I am going to log out, and I'm actually going to log in with my credentials. So if my friend from Hancock, New Hampshire there wants to log in using 603, they can. And what I want you all to do is I want you all to log in. And when you log in, please raise your hand and let me know that you're able to log in. Just so you know, about 39 of you have logged in, 39 of the 77. Nice work, thank you. Let me also get down here and make sure everybody's mics are enabled, because a couple of folks have popped in or popped out. Make sure everybody can talk and ask questions if they want.
So I have a quick question. I'm guessing that this is with this account, we can view those dashboards that you were showing us earlier if we wanted to, right?
Actually, the dashboards I showed you earlier were on our demo system, but we have other dashboards that we are going to play with here that you can see that have similar capabilities.
Okay, is there a way that we can, after this meeting, play with some of the dashboards that you showed us on the travel site?
Not really, because we locked that down. That's used for our sales folks to demonstrate stuff.
Okay, no problem.
But you can certainly do build and stuff here, and you know, we've got a lot of similar stuff here, so I think it won't be as big a deal.
Awesome.
Okay. And yes, this is a training environment that you can use and you can play with and all that stuff. So the only thing is that you're not sure about all the data and stuff that we have and all the, you know, but you'll see where some of that stuff comes from. Anyway, I have about 37 folks who've raised their hands. They're logged in and no problems. I realize that I don't expect 100% activity here, but I do expect hopefully maybe 70%. I realize that maybe work got in the way and, you know, reached out and you know, said, hey, we got a problem or something. So I get that if that happens. But hopefully you all are logged in. All of you who want to be logged in are logged into this training environment. And so let me go ahead and lower the hands, and let me go ahead and continue. The hand should be lowered. Great. And hopefully everybody is in, wants to be in. If you're not able to log in, please let me know. Okay. If you're having problems logging in, now is the time. All right. So what are we looking at here and what's going on here? So first of all, over here on this left, I have this panel open. Maybe yours is open, maybe yours is closed. If it is closed, you will see the word Sumo Logic, and you'll see this hamburger menu. This hamburger menu, if you click on it, opens this panel up. This is our navigation panel. This is our navigation panel where we can see stuff in our library. Okay. If you have a duplicate, don't worry about it. If you took somebody else's number, don't worry about it, because we save things. We're gonna put our initials in there and all that fun stuff. So not to worry about any duplications. I just want to make sure there's not a massive amount of duplication. So that's really what I'm worried about. So thank you. Anyway, so here in my navigation panel, here's my shared library. This is stuff that we can all see, we can all access, we can all deal with. Under here, where it's got the little head on it, this is our personal library. This is where you and I and others can create and save things. Even if it's in our personal library, we can still share it with others. There's an option, even though it's in our personal library, we can share it with others. And we'll talk about that in just a little bit. Here we have a star. This denotes our favorites. Bookmarking something. You want to bookmark it because it's your favorite. How do you bookmark it? It's real simple. You can either go to your personal library, your shared library, and you find the object that you want to bookmark. I'm going to grab this one right here, and you'll see there's a hollow star. If I click on that hollow star and it fills it in, it is now added to my bookmark, my favorites. I don't want it to be here anymore. I can click on it again and hollow it back out and remove it from my favorites. So that's how you can bookmark things and add things to your favorites. This final little icon over here to the far left is I can see what's recently opened by me. I can also see what was recently shared with me. So I can look at things that are opened by me or shared with me. And that is our navigation pane. Now, below our navigation pane is our main menu. And here in our main menu, we'll talk about some of these options in this class. We'll talk about some of the options in other classes, but I want to start with the help. So if I click on the help and open it up, you'll see I've got lots and lots of help here in lots and lots of different ways. I'm going to start under help. I'm going to start with community. And if I click on community, and if you click on community, it's going to take us to the Sumo Logic community. This is where you and I and others can go out and we can collaborate and we can put code suggestions. We can search for code suggestions and query suggestions and all kinds of neat stuff. Okay. This is, obviously created by us, but it's also used by our partners, our customers, and all kinds of fun stuff. Under here where it says ideas, for example, if you've got an enhancement request or an idea that you think would make the Sumo Logic platform better, you could click on ideas. You can add your idea to this. You can even vote on ideas. Okay. And so here, like I said, is a bunch of sections broken up into our community. Now, in the community, what I want you to do, or what I'm going to do, is I'm going to search for the word slides. S-L-I-D-E-S. Slides. And you're probably thinking John's gone off his rocker, but trust me, there is a method to my madness. So when I search for the word slides, I get this return: training and certification, lab, webinars, and slides. And if I click on this link, I see for all of our certification classes, this is the one we're in right now, fundamentals. I see here's a link to the labs. Here's a link to a recording of this class. Here's a link to the slides. Now you may ask, well, why are we sharing the slides? Our exams are open note, open book, open slides, open documentation. The only thing you can't use is each other. And so you can, I can, we can access these slides. And if we want to, you can download them through your LinkedIn account. But you can see the slides right here. And like I said, if you Couple of test questions are based on some of these slides like this one. And like, oops, this one right here, as far as the order of things that we do. And I'll point it out when I show you that slide. But you can access these slides. And by the way, if this panel pops up, just move your cursor away and click and it'll go away. The slide share folks are getting a little crazy about promoting their product. Now, this URL, if you don't mind, I'm going to take and copy, and I'm going to put it in the chat box. Also, while we are here, if you don't mind, let's go ahead and under fundamental certification, let's click on labs and have it open up our labs for this class. And here, this is in our documentation, our product documentation. Here's where our hands-on labs for fundamentals are. And these are the 7 labs that you and I are going to do in this class. So I'm going to take this URL and I'm going to copy it and I'm going to put it in the chat box. Okay. And I'm also going to take this tab here. I've got Google Chrome, so I'm going to right click on it. I'm going to pin this tab because I want to be able to switch back and forth through my Sumo Logic environment and my labs fairly quickly and fairly easily. Again, this page has all of our certification classes and some of our more popular workshops in here as well. So if you want to learn more and you don't have time to take our instructor-led classes, you can listen to the recording, do the labs, and of course, reach out to me if you get stuck on anything. Any questions about that? All right, I'm gonna close that tab up. I'm gonna go back to Sumo Logic for a second. Here in Sumo Logic, I talked about community. Let's talk about documentation. Under help, there is documentation. This will take you to our product documentation, otherwise known as help.sumologic.com. Now, if you clicked somewhere in Sumo Logic and went to help, it is context sensitive. It would give you help about that. Since I did not click someplace in the Sumo Logic product, it is showing me all of my chapters. And so here is help on all of Sumo Logic, broke it down. Of course, I could search for something if I want to, but I want to point out a couple of things that will probably help you out. Earlier, I mentioned here under start here is where our quick start labs and tutorials are. By the way, when you click in our documentation, the table of contents will move over here to the left. And as I said, here is all of our courses and all of our labs. You want to take a tour of the Sumo Logic UI. There's an onboarding checklist if you're new to Sumo Logic. All kinds of things to help you out. You'll find that in the search chapter and third chapter, search chapter, under search, you'll find there's something here called search cheat sheets. And here under search cheat sheets, you'll see there's something here called our log operator cheat sheet. And in our log operator cheat sheet, we have all of the operators that we use when we write log queries right here. So there is this lovely URL that I am going to copy and I am going to paste so that you want to know the various commands we use for log queries. They're there. Now, somebody may say, well, gee, isn't there a nice little version I can print out? And sure enough, in this first paragraph, it says PDF version. I can click on that and now I can print this out. So here, when we talk about parsing, we talk about aggregating, search operators, they are all right there and you can print them out. Now, we're not going to get into metrics during this class at all, but we also have the equivalent for metrics. It's actually in our metric chapter here and under introduction to metrics and getting started with metrics, whatever. Or I can just say the heck with it. Let's just do a search for metric operators. And there are a listing here of all my metric operators. So if you want to build metric queries, here are the operators. And yes, there is a cheat sheet that you can print out as well. But again, we're not going to get into metrics today. So that's how help can probably, forgive the expression, help you out. And that's our documentation. All right. What do you say we get into lab 1 of our lab? So again, in case you forgot where the heck I am, grab this one. This link should take you right here. And then we're going to go ahead and click on lab number 1. And in lab number 1, they want you to log in. And you did that. We're done. So somebody asked the question earlier, where can I see where my data is coming from? That's the next thing we're going to talk about here in lab 1. So in lab 1, they want us to go back to Sumo. They want us to go in here to manage data. And here in manage data, they want us to click on the collection tab. These show us all of our collectors. These show us all of our collectors. And if I want to search for a specific collector, for example, maybe you're an Azure shop, you can search for anything that has the word Azure in it. Or maybe you want to look at your Okta collectors, you can search for Okta. Doesn't make any difference whether you type it uppercase or lowercase, it'll find it. Okay, it's case insensitive. Now, what you're looking at here is these things with triangles are your collectors. Okay, they're your collectors. The things underneath them are your sources. So these are the various sources of data. For example, I'm bringing in some API server metrics here. I'm bringing in my events. I'm bringing in my control plane metrics in a Kubernetes environment. I'm bringing in my Kubernetes controller information. All kinds of fun stuff here. And when you create your sources and your collectors, you can name them anything you want to. Okay. So again, your collector and then your various sources. So you can see them right here. But in lab 1, we can also create a query to see this. So what we're going to do here is we're going to hit the new blue button. We're going to choose log search. And that's going to bring up our log search operators. Here's our new blue button, log search. I'm going to close up my navigation panel. I don't need it. And so here we are in the Sumo Logic log search interface. And up here is where we type in a query. And then we'll see and stuff our results and stuff down here. But when I go back to my lab here, my lab guide, it says, it gave me some code right here. And I could take this code and I can swipe over it and I can copy it and I can paste it right in here. Okay. So you can copy and paste things out of the code window if you want. And then if I want to, by default, it runs here for 15 minutes. I could change this and we'll talk more about that later. But when I run this, I now see my results of everything. And I see a listing here of my source categories and how many messages out of my 837,916 messages came from each source. Now, let me actually build this out. So I copied it. That's nice. And let me break this down for you. So the first thing I have here is a wildcard, a star. Star means give me everything. Okay, give me everything. So when I run this star by itself, it's going to give me all my logs over the last 15 minutes. And in my case, you see that I've got about 905,689 log messages over the last 15 minutes. That's how many log messages I have. And they're all in different formats. Some can be textual, some can be in JSON, some can be in XML, some can be in CSV, but here are the results of my logs. This area over here is my field browser. I'll talk about it in just a little bit. Now, what I want to do is I want to do an additional command. So we connect our commands together with a pipe. So one more thing. I want to do one more command. And I can say I want to count by. So I'm going to use the operator count by. And then I'm going to use the metadata tag underscore source category. And you notice as I start typing in, it starts giving me a hint here as far as what I can use. So source category. And this you do kind of have to spell correctly and all that sort of thing. So what this is doing is it's now aggregating. So here's my messages. That hasn't changed. I've got, my number of messages, but this aggregates tab was created because I used the count function or a min or a sum or a max, whatever. But this count is now going to say, count the number of messages by source category. And then I'm going to add another command to this, type pipe. And I want to say, I want to sort by, and what I want to do is I want to sort it by my count, right? My results of my count. So I type in here, sort by underscore count. Now, you may get confused here, underscore count here, but count there. This count is an operator. It counts things. Think of a teacher in a classroom counting students. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? The results of that count are stored here as underscore count. And therefore, I want to sort this by underscore count in descending order. And so now when I run this, I get a listing here of, in descending order, of the number of messages that I have. If I want it to be in ascending order, ASC. If I don't specify an order, it will put it in descending order. So by default, it puts it in descending order. So somebody asked the question earlier, is there a way for me to see what data and stuff I have? Hopefully this gets you started in that conversation. Derek, is there a question, sir?
Yeah, so look, let's say we want to view like an average of this data, but it's over like a big time span, like a week or a month, and it takes too long to execute the query. Is there a way that we could execute it on, say, like an evenly distributed sample of the data across the time span?
Well, there's a couple ways of solving that performance problem, right? Number one, you can create a scheduled view. What a scheduled view will do is it will run behind the scenes, and then as new data comes in, and just add the new data. And then you can then view that scheduled view. So there are ways of doing that. And then, of course, there are also ways of changing and writing this query in such a way that you're getting, the average of the data that you want and all that fun stuff. So, but the question is more than a simple answer. Obviously we start getting into the specifics, but yes, there are ways of making it better.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Okay. No problem. And by the way, over here is where you can specify your time frame of how much data you want to see. Now, one thing also, and that is, I'm asking for everything, all right, which is really painful, okay? That's a costly query, if you will. What I really want to do is I may want to filter this. And so when we get into actually writing queries, we're going to get into some best practices here of making sure we filter down and hunker down what we really want to see. And so, but we're not there yet. We're going to get there. By the way, obviously, as you can tell, I could probably add another pipe here and I could continue on and add another command. In fact, I could string a bunch of commands together and have the world's ugliest run-on sentence that you've ever seen. Now, that's great. The computer can handle it, but we humans may have a hard time reading that. So what we recommend as a good practice is right before your pipe symbol that you either do a shift enter or an alt enter, depending on whose keyboard you're on. If you're on a Windows keyboard, it's an alt enter. If you're on a Mac keyboard, it's a shift enter. And that will word wrap these, and that will improve the readability for us humans. Doesn't make any difference whether you word wrap them or not for the system, but for us humans, it would probably be very helpful. Okay, let's see. How can we have a threshold defined in the same query? What do you mean by a threshold? Okay, that's my question. And then, go ahead.
Hi, John, Sanchit this side. So the threshold I'm trying to say is when we are actually counting the source category. So can we have a threshold like not the time threshold, but the count of logs that coming up as an aggregate?
You want maybe a count greater than 200 or something like that?
10,000. Yeah,
or
yeah.
Top 10. Yeah, there's ways to do that. And we'll get into some of that today, but we'll get into some of that tomorrow too. Okay. So you can use, I want to look at count greater than, some sort of filter statement, count greater than, or maybe I want to see the top 10 or top 5 or bottom 5 or whatever you want. There's lots of different ways of doing that. So does that kind of help you out there a little bit?
Yep. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for asking. Okay, Patrick, you've got a question here. It looks like the field names being used in the search area are case insensitive. This first line is case insensitive, and for the most part, our queries are case insensitive, except when you do a where clause with double quotes. Whatever you put in the double quotes must match. It's doing a string match. Therefore, that is case sensitive. But you're right. Most of this query is case insensitive. So you're absolutely right, Patrick. Thank you. And then over here in the chat boxes here. Okay. Is there a cheat sheet you can use for sources? Okay. There's not so much a cheat sheet, but let me do this. Oh, you guys are a real good group here for asking questions. If I just leave the query blank, you can see here all the different metadata tags that you can start with. So I can start with source, source categories, source host, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. And so hopefully that answers some of your question there, Tom, with regards to, it's not a cheat sheet, but obviously we start with a blank query and, it gives you a pick list here of what you can use. Okay. And Mark, yeah, put in the description there of what you wanted to do. One thing I do want to do here, and I probably shouldn't have swiped over this, but if you'll bear with me just a second. Next to my field here where I type things in, there's this little speedometer. If you click on that speedometer, it gives you a history of all of your queries. And so I can go back to a previous query here if I want to. And what I wanted to do here was, again, you should, quite frankly, be able to take this query and I'm going to put it in the chat box. And you should be able to go into your own company's environment if you're using source categories, and you should be able to run it and you should be able to see, where is my data coming from? Okay. So that's the value there of lab number 1. And that takes us past step 5, basically, where our results are. Now, before I continue on lab number 1, I mentioned, somebody asked me earlier when we were taking a break, and I told them 11:15. So this is a good part for a break. So what I want to do here is I propose that we take about a 10-minute break, and I've got my timer here started. So when this timer gets down to 0, I'd like you all back. So please take a 10-minute break. We'll see you shortly. Thank you. And Stephen, I'm going to answer your question when we come back from break. Thanks. Hey folks, it's John. Welcome back. Hopefully you had a nice break. And basically, a couple things I wanted to mention that right before we went on break, somebody asked a question. Steven asked a question. If we're looking for a specific thing such as a username, if it's in quotes, could it be case sensitive? If not, you're going to find that when we get into looking for specific things, we're going to add it to our metadata line, our first line. And therefore, it is not going to be case sensitive. However, if you use it in a filter, a where clause, you'll find that it will be case sensitive. However, we can also use upper and lower functions on them if we want to. So there are ways of getting around this. So again, we'll get into all this. I just need, it's a good question. I wanted to try to mention it here real quick. Okay. Derek, is there a question?
Yeah, I know we'll probably get into this later, but something that I'll be interested in when we get into it is for like log reduce, how we can, for example, like make a pie chart that groups the errors by the log reduced error message is something that I really would like to see once we get into that.
Okay, actually, that's not going to be in this class. That would be in the search mastery class. But if we have some time, I will try to.
That's tomorrow, right?
Tomorrow, yep.
Yep, awesome. Sounds good.
Okay, so good questions again. And by the way, I appreciate the participation, folks. This has been more fun for me today than you can imagine. Usually, a lot of folks are fairly quiet. A lot of classes are quiet. You guys are asking some good questions. So, back to lab number 1. Right, we got through the first part of it up here, and next thing we want to do is show you how you can find and display a shared dashboard. Okay. So if I go back here to Sumo Logic, and again, I've got these tabs open, and I'm going to open up my navigation panel. All right, so I'm going to open the navigation panel, and I want to search in the library, and I want to search for something called Apache Access. So as I start typing in here, Apache Access, regardless of what case I type it in, I see that I've got some hits. And what I want to do is find the folder that has me as the owner, created by me, okay? These other ones are not the right folders. And so the point is we want to go find this particular folder, we want to open it up, and we want to click on Apache Overview. And when we click on Apache Overview, this is us running a new dashboard. So this particular dashboard can show us all kinds of information. And we can even filter this dashboard if we want to. Based on a specific system or whatever, we got filters and stuff we can apply, which apply to these queries. But here I can see I've got a map chart, I've got some honeycomb charts, all kinds of neat stuff here that you and I can use for this. Okay. So we just want to show you how you can find something and run something. And that's basically the part of that exercise 1. So finding and displaying a shared dashboard. Now, the next part of this lab is they want us to install an app, and you're going to need to have this app installed for the next, or not the next, but one of the labs coming up. Okay, so we will use this app in a subsequent lab coming up. So what we're trying to show you here is that we've got a bunch of pre-built applications. The best query that you can have is the one you don't have to write. So if I open up our navigation panel and I go down to my main menu and I click on App Catalog, you're going to see we have about 200 applications waiting and ready for you. And these applications can deal with AWS, Azure, Microsoft, all kinds of security products, all kinds of different things. Just to talk about one we can all probably relate to since we're on a Zoom call here, there's a Zoom app. And if I click on the Zoom app, it talks about what this app does. And there's a link here to preview dashboards so I can see the kind of information that it gives you. Now, the goal of these apps is to be able to get you anywhere from 70 to 90% of where you want to be. So if you install these apps, hopefully they get you 70 to 90% of where you be. And then maybe you need to modify some of these queries in here just a little bit, tweak them to get you that last 10 to 30%. Okay. And basically that's basically how this works. Now, what we want to do is I want to go back to the app catalog and I want to start searching for Apache. And as I start typing in from all categories, if I click on all categories, I start typing in APA, it looks within all categories and it finds these 4. Now, many of you probably are aware that Apache is a web server, right? And then Apache Tomcat took Apache web server and added some Java and JavaScript functionality to it and all that. And then I've got some global intelligence for both of these, okay? What we want though simply is Apache with the feather. We want the Apache app, okay? Somebody got logged out. What's the password again? Hang on a second. The password is, oh, thanks, Mark, you're quick. Thanks, 21 exclamation mark. Yep, thanks, Mark. You took care of that for me. Thank you, no problem. All right, so let's go ahead and log back in. By the way, I'll do this anyway, just at the risk of, you know, some of you noticed that we log you out fairly quickly, right, of an activity. And the rationale and the setting for that is if you click where your name is down here at the bottom, your training analyst account is, and then if you go into preferences, there is a setting here as far as your web session timeout that you can change, okay? We usually set it fairly low because of it for security reasons, but you can obviously adjust it if you want to prevent yourself from getting taken out. And again, you want to do this for your company's environment. You want to set the setting based on your company policies, okay? So I'll turn that into a teachable moment and we will get back to lab number 1. Here we go. So when we last left off, we were in our app catalog and we were going to install Apache and we're going to install this app and we want to add this to our library. So we're going to click add to library here. And for the name of it, Apache is fine, but I would like you to add your initials. Now, I teach this class about every week, whether I need to or not. So not only am I going to add my initials, but I'm also going to add a date stamp here, 1102, okay? And so basically we're going to install this application. So I'd like you to put Apache in your initials. And then we need to specify how do we tie it to the data, you know, the data that's coming in. How do we specify it? 2 ways we can do that. We can either use the source category field, which we talked about earlier, or we can define a custom data filter. And we're going to choose to use a custom data filter. And back here on directions for lab number 1, down here about step 4, it says here for the custom data filter, we are going to use web server underscore system equals Apache without the period at the end, okay? So I'm gonna swipe over that. I'm gonna copy that. I'm gonna put it in the chat box for you in case you want it. And of course, I'm gonna go back in here and paste it in. Now, what we're telling it is, look, we're looking for a metadata tag called web server underscore system. And the value that we want is only the Apache data. We don't want IIS, we don't want other systems, we just want Apache. So we're gonna fill that in. If I click under advanced, you'll see it's gonna store it in my personal folder, which is exactly where we want it. So I'm gonna go ahead and click add to library. I'd like you to do the same. And it will now add it to your library. And so here, if I look in my personal folder, here's, you can see I've got a few Apache JWMs there. Here's the one I just installed. And if I want to add it as a favorite, I can certainly do that. But then we want to make sure it works. So there's 2 things we want to do once we install this app. One, we want to make sure it works. And I'm going to click on this Apache overview and make sure it populates with data. It does. So that works. That's one of the 2 things we want to do. And then the second thing we want to do is we want to talk about sharing this application with others. So how do we share this application with others? It's in your personal folder. Again, there's this more action button, or the kebab, if you will, the 3 vertical dots. When you click on it, you'll see you have an option to share. In fact, you'll see all kinds of nifty options here. One option you don't see is to compress or zip. Again, you might see that in the test question. So You don't see the option to compress or zip, and that's absolutely right. So I'm going to click share here, and then I get to specify who do I want to share this with. Now, 3 broad groups of folks that you can share with. 1, you can share with your entire organization. That's it. Share it with your entire organization. 2, you can also share it with the built-in roles that you have. So for example, all of you are a member of a training analyst role. So I'm going to give you guys permissions to see this as well. And then also, besides the entire organization and our specific role, I can also look for named users. Now, I cannot look for John Meredith because I am John Meredith. If I try to search for John Meredith, it's not going to show up. But if you did, you'd see me. So I'm going to look for my boss, Josh. And so I'm going to select Josh here as this. Now, ultimately, what I want to do is I want to give these 3 different groups of people specific permissions, okay? But because I've added them all at one time, I can give them only, as a group, I can only give them one set of permissions. So let's talk about these permissions. View means I can view it, I can run it, but I can't make changes to it. If I want to make changes to it, I need the edit permission. So that edit permission means I can view it, run it, and I can modify the dashboards and modify the queries and modify that stuff. But I can't change who can see it. If I want to change who can see it, I got to give you the manage right. So the manage right lets me view and edit as well as change permissions. So right now, initially, I'm going to give everybody the view right. I'm going to do this in two steps. And I could notify them via email, but I don't want to create an email storm. I don't want to create a bunch of emails. So I'm going to leave that off. And I'm going to click share. Now, what that's going to do is that's going to give everybody the view right to this. Now, I'm going to go back in my share, and now I can see who has access. And now I can modify this and give my boss the ability to manage, and I can give you all the ability to edit. So I can granulate this. And of course, if I wanted to delete somebody or change whatever, I could certainly do that. But here is how we change permissions and how we share. And so that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you share. And that pretty much takes care of lab number 1. Any questions?
Actually, John, I have a quick one. So we use Terraform when we're building out our collectors. And one of the problems that we've run into is that, and this might be a little bit advanced, but we, the individual who makes the actual like folder or the actual dashboard,
Yep.
if we're not using his or her key, then we can't remove the actual dashboard or the actual.
Gotcha.
Is there a way around that?
There is. So let me answer your question in 2 parts. Number 1, you can use Terraform. Yes, you can use CloudFormation. You can use a lot of different tools.
Wait, we can't use Terraform?
Can, I said can. Sorry,
okay.
C-A-N. Sorry, you can't.
No, I'm deaf.
Yeah.
I'm
No, that's okay. I'm with you. I'm there with you. The second part to that is you'll find that when we log in and we set up collectors, and again, this is in the admin class, but when we get in and set up collectors, you'll find that I have permissions to do this, you don't. But when we add collectors, we can either set up an access key, which can be used multiple times. So you can set up a unattended access key, which has an access ID and an access key value to programmatically set up those collectors. Or you can also use a token, but the token is a one-time type usage.
Gotcha.
These access keys can be used over and over and over again.
okay. Perfect. Thank
So
you.
hopefully that answers your question.
And you said we're going to go over this more in the administration class?
We certainly are.
Perfect. Thank you.
No problem. Yep. All right. Any other questions? All right. So let's talk about lab 2. In lab 2, we are going to start building a query, and we are going to start playing around. So I could, of course, take this code right here and I could copy it and I could paste it. But let me, in fact, let me do a couple things. Let me close this up because I don't need it. Let me also get rid of all these excess tabs. I got a lot of tabs here. I can click on any one of these tabs, click on the more action button, and I can close all tabs. Just kind of keep things clean, okay? I want to grab the new blue button up here, new log search, and I am going to start typing in a query. So underscore, and as I start typing underscore, it starts showing me my choice values here. I start typing in source, it starts limiting those values. And I am going to say, okay, source category equals labs / Apache. And as I start typing in, the type ahead starts telling me what my choices are. So I'm going to grab lab / Apache / access. And I'm just going to go ahead and run this. Without, I'm going to forget the word get for right now. Just humor me. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm looking at the last 15 minutes of all my Apache access logs. And again, I've got about 7,266 log messages I have, okay? I can change this if I want to look at a longer period of time. Maybe I want to look at 60 minutes. Okay. How can I auto-complete the suggestion? Tab does not work. Okay, gotcha. You select it. You've got to select it. Tab does not work. You're correct. You got to select it. So as I start typing in here, I select what I want. Okay. So there you go. Thank you. Thanks for asking. Yeah, this didn't get its root. This web interface does not work with Unix type commands where you can tab complete. Anyway, so I can change this to 60 minutes and look at my logs for the last 60 minutes. I can even go in here to custom, and I can pick date ranges and time ranges and whatever I want. Now, the thing is that chances are the relative time that you want is probably not listed here. Okay, like if I want 45 minutes, or if I want to go back 2 days, right? But the good news is the code here is very simple to break. You want to go back in time, so that's a minus. You can't go forward in time, right? Minus, and then I want to go back 45, M for minutes, D for days, H for hours. And that's the code on how to go back and change this value.
What about months?
Months, -2M.
I thought M was minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. Sorry, months. I got to count the number of days then. Sorry. So I want to go back 60 days, right? -60D.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's a easy workaround.
Yeah. Or 62 days or whatever. Yeah. That'll be on with it. Yeah.
But you have to calculate the actual number. Like we couldn't say 18 months. We would have to do 18 times whatever.
Correct.
Then you can use years.
And that's when you start moving into years and right.
Right.
1.5.
You could use years, and then you can also just specify the dates as well, like
Right.
literally the date range you
Right.
want.
You can pick the date range that you want to. You can even specify type the dates you want. So for example, here I want 1101. And by the way, if I don't specify year, it assumes current year. Okay. So I can specify, I can type in dates and stuff if I want to here.
What if we wanted to say like a 30-minute time window from yesterday? So like 1 day ago, and then
Yep.
30 minutes.
So we're going to go -1D -30M. And if I look at my time, my tooltip here, it says I'm going to go from 01/2021 at 11:42 a.m. to 11:12 a.m. So you can see the range it's going to pick. But yes, you can actually do something like that, something complicated. So I'm going back a day, and then I'm going back 30 minutes.
Okay, so that's a range between 24 hours ago and 23 hours and 30 minutes ago.
It's going back 1 day, and then it's going to go back 30 minutes of that 1 day.
Is it
So it's going back 1 day
now and that 1 day and 30 minutes ago, or
That's
is
correct.
it
One day and 30 minutes ago. That's correct.
Okay. How do you do like just a 30-minute window from 1 day ago?
Okay. Well, here's the issue. If I run this now, it's going to be this time. If I run it 5 minutes from now, it'll be 5 more minutes. So I'm trying to understand exactly what you want to go back a day and 30 minutes. The question is, when do you run this?
Oh,
That's really what
I'm
you're trying to
talking
do,
like,
right?
let's say I want to view the data from like what a 1 day window from 7 days ago, for example.
Okay.
So not between 7 days ago and today, just that 1 day, exactly
Okay.
7 days
The
ago.
other thing, keep in mind that you can always schedule these, which I think is really what you're trying to do. Under save as, you can schedule these things to run. And then, whatever the date parameter is up there, if you want to go back a week and then schedules to run every hour, it'll give you hourly runs based on 7 days ago.
Okay, cool.
Couldn't you just do a custom date range for the 7-day period you want by
You
just
could,
selecting that?
you could, yeah,
Yeah, I think that would be the way to do it.
yeah. Okay.
If I ask what the yellow triangle next to display fields is that you have, I don't, on the left-hand side, next to below messages, display fields, you have a yellow triangle.
I'm sorry, where's that yellow triangle you're talking about?
Under where your cat sources are, or to your left.
Oh, this yellow triangle right here, display fields. Yep. This is warning me that I've got a lot of data here. That's why I got this triangle. It's a result of my query.
Gotcha, thank you.
Okay, just a warning. Yep. So, yep, good question. All right, so let's get to this now. When we recommend you write a query, the first thing you typically want to do is minimize how much query you have. Right now, I'm looking at all of my Apache access for, in this case, the last 60 days, which I really don't want to do. Okay. Hang on. Okay. And so what I want to do is maybe I want to look for something specific in this log message, right? I only want to see maybe where my status code is equal to 200 or status code is equal to 304. So I can type in, for example, here a 304, and it will then show me messages that have a 304 in them. Okay. This way you're filtering right off the get-go. You're only seeing what you want to see, and we're down to now 1,027 messages. Okay. Or maybe you want to see 304 or 403s. And so this is going to find any message that has a 304 or a 403 in it. Okay. So you can, again, filter this thing down.
Why
Now-
the underscore after 4? Just because you have to connect it, and if you put a space, it wouldn't recognize it, or?
No, there shouldn't be any underscore in there at all.
Oh, I thought I said underscore after 4. I might have looked it
No,
wrong.
understand. It may have tried to tell me where my line is. That little
Oh,
pink
oh, that's
underscore is
just
not
a-
me.
Gotcha,
That's just
gotcha,
it's parsing.
gotcha.
Yep, no problem. No, you saw it. So the point is, and by the way, I could also add the word and in here and say and 403, right? Or and 304 or whatever I want. But you don't need the word and. Ands are implied. So if I don't specify an operator here, it's going to assume an and. Now you may wonder about that. And if you think about it, if I put in an or, and I run this, now it's going to show me my Apache access logs or any log that has a 403 in it. So I'm going to see a fair number of logs here. And they, so I will see all my Apache access logs and any other log that has a 403 in it. For example, here, this Tomcat log has a 403 in it. So you really want to be careful here about your Boolean logic, right? Now, I could type in the word and get, and again, this is case insensitive, so it doesn't make a difference whether I type in uppercase get or a lowercase get, and let me get rid of that 403. But it now only finds messages from my Apache access logs that have the word get in it. So I'm down to 6,802 messages. Okay.
If you wanted, say, 2 or 3 ends, could you skip the end for it and just do get space 401 space 103? Or would you need to do get space end 401 space end?
You would actually have to put ors and stuff in them. So,
Okay,
you guys put ors in between your various things, and you have to put them in parentheses.
gotcha.
Okay. Yeah. And again, this is stuff I just encourage you guys to play with. Okay. All right. Does it know status code or could we see? Right. Good question. So Mark asked a really good question. Mark's like, when I put in here a number like 304, but yeah, let's make it a number that we can relate to, 200. That 200 can be anywhere in the message. All right. We know we want this to be the status code of 200, but that 200 could be an octet in the IP. That 200 could be in a file name. So that 200 could be anywhere in this message. And there's a more precise way of doing this. If I have a field where I have status code, like I have down here, I could use that field, but I've got to have that field. And I don't want to status code equals 200. Now it's only going to find 200 in the status code field. So if there's 200 is an octet and an IP address, it won't find that. Okay. Now the question is, how did these fields get here? Right? How did those fields get there? There's two ways. If I'm dealing with JSON logs, those fields are automatically parsed and added to my field browser. Okay. But in this case, this is textual information. This is stuff from my web logs. It's not JSON. And so we have in the product the ability for you and for I to create something called field extraction rules. And when I say you or I really mean administrators. Administrators usually do this. And so the point is that when you ingest stuff into Sumo Logic, we can write a rule that says, hey, please parse out these fields. And this particular field extraction rule is pre-parsing out the source IP, the method, the URL, and all that good stuff. That's what this is doing. This happens to be using a parse regular expression. There are other parsing mechanisms we could use. If it was JSON, we could parse JSON. CSV, we could parse CSV. And we could do parse anchor. And so we're going to talk about parsing here in just a minute. But the point is, these field extraction rules will get set up by your administrator or whoever. When I run something that has a field extraction rule, I will see these fields. And I can then click on these fields and I can see the values. Let me do this. Hang on a second. Let me get rid of this. Rerun this query. Oops. And if I go down here to status code and I click, I can see all the values of my status code, the count of those status codes, and the breakdown in percentage. Okay. For example, I have a field called size. How big is my web page? And I can see the top 10 sizes. Once I get up to the value of 10 here, I can't display more than 10. So I see the top 10. If I have something less than 10, then I can see the values themselves.
So those are going to be globally, those attributes are globally available for everyone, or those for you to use personally? Like, how does that work?
Yep, that's a good question. When you create a field extraction rule, if you're using a source that has the field extraction rule available, it's available to everybody.
Cool.
So everybody will see this. And I mean, let's face it, that makes it a lot easier. In fact, what I want to do is maybe I want to check my status code. So now it adds status code up here. It pulls it out. Maybe I also want to grab method. And of course, the only method I have is get. I don't have any posts. But I can then pick and choose what I want and see the information and start parsing this stuff out. Derek, is there a question? Go ahead.
Yeah. So like, what if, for example, like there's a lot of different kinds of logs, and a lot of people are using Sumo Logic, and there's just one specific I'm trying to create an attribute that's only for one specific kind of log that only I will use. Let's say that it will fail to match, like status code, for example. Like there's only one part of the logs that status code is used for.
Yep. So you're going to have to write your query so that you're only filtering for that data source, that specific source.
So that attribute will only appear when it matches with the specific data source, right?
Correct. Let me do this. Hang on a second. Let me do this. If I go back here and say, look, I want to see any source category I have, right? That global wildcard again. Look at all the fields I have in my field browser. Okay. So the field browser automatically adjusts for the data that you're looking at. So you need to specify what you want to see so that you get the right results in your field processing. We want to make it easy, but we also want to make it powerful, which means that somebody's got to control something. Okay. And let me get caught up here on the questions here, folks. I've been given to understand, Tom asked a really good question here. I've been given to understand that field extraction rules are not the all-you-can-eat buffet. There are also so many that you can have. I believe there is a limit of how many that you can have, but you can ask us to change that limit. So now the other question is that, one of the issues here is an issue of ingest and how much you're paying Sumo Logic and all that fun stuff. If you're dealing with field extraction rules, I think on any infrequent area, I believe that changes your ingest, but don't quote me on that. That's something you probably want to talk to your SE or your account team. So Tom, the answer is I would go back and talk to your account team about what they mean by that, and or get a clear clarification, because they know your data, they know your system much better than I do. Okay, but there is a cap of how many field extraction rules you can have, but and we can raise that value, I believe. So hopefully that clarifies everything. We're all in good shape. Let me just make a quick pass. Make sure you all have your microphones enabled so you can ask questions. And I think we are in good shape. Okay. Is there a way to do an exact word match? For example, I want to search for apple, but only the word apple, not the words that contain apple. You would actually change your query to say apple and then put a space in there. So a space before and a space after. Okay. Is what I would do. Okay. That way you're getting the word apple and not Apple Smith or apple sauce or apple whatever, Johnny Appleseed, those of you who are Apple users. Okay. So is what I do. All right. So let's get back here to good old query. And by the way, one thing I want to point out here with the query, and let me go back to my slides for just a second. Again, when we build a query, this is the general structure that we use, and this makes a great test question. So I mentioned there are 2 slides that test questions come out of. This is one of those 2 slides. So we normally type in the metadata that we're looking for, and then any keywords like get or like 304 or 403, whatever, keywords that you want to filter for. Now, you don't have to have double quotes in here unless you got spaces in there. So for example, if I am looking for something that's got a space in it, I do need to put double quotes in there. And then after that, we parse out the fields that we want. Now we can parse using parse anchor, parse regex, parse JSON, and we'll talk about parsing in just a little bit here. And we'll talk about parsing ad nauseum tomorrow in tomorrow's class. Then we get to filter, right? So I get the filter, and then I get to aggregate, and then I get the format, all that sort of thing. If you think about this, we're really kind of going through a funnel. We're taking your data and we're driving it through a funnel. Oops, excuse me. And that funnel, the diameter of that funnel, the top part of that funnel is really set by this first line, this metadata and keywords. So the metadata and keywords sets the diameter. The more specific I can be at the top, the first line, the tighter and smaller my diameter becomes. And then I go through the parsing where I can do parse anchor, parse regex, all kinds of different parsing that I can do. I can filter, add where clauses, add in operators, if statements, whatever. I can aggregate, I can format, and I can do the various things that I want to do. And we're going to see some of that in this class. Okay. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. Can I search via regex? Yes, you don't need to search via regex, really. But to answer your question, Mark, I got to play with that for a second. Okay. Okay. Is using 5 pipes, creating 5 queries, one at the top, or is just one query? It's one query with 5 additional commands. So the pipes represent one more thing or an additional command type thing. So it's how you string your commands together. We do it with a pipe. And those of you familiar with Unix can probably relate to that. Okay. Now, what I want to do here, again, I want to type in my get. Okay. And so now I'm getting some results back here for the last 15 minutes. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to do a parse statement. Now, truth be told, because I got all these fields in my field browser, I normally wouldn't have to do that. But I cannot assume that you all have field extraction rules. So I'm going to show you how you can extract a field. Lots of different ways of doing it, lots of different methods, and we'll talk more tomorrow in more detail about it. But let me get to this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a parse anchor. And I don't care if you want to start at the first message, the second message, the third message, it makes no difference. Okay. But what I'm going to do here is I am going to anchor on a value. And that's why it's called parse anchor. So I'm going to anchor at the start of my selection. I'm going to anchor at the end of my selection. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start where this bracket is, this right bracket is right after my timestamp. And I'm going to swipe over the word get. And I'm going to swipe over that single slash. And I'm going to swipe over this HTTP 1/1. And I'm going to continue to swipe until I get past these 2 sets of numbers, my status code and my size. And then I'm going to continue to swipe and grab this URL, which is in double quotes. And then I am going to stop. I'm going to stop. And I'm going to let go of my mouse. I'm going to quit dragging. Then I'm going to right click on this area that I've highlighted. And I have an option here to parse selected text. So I am going to parse the selected text. It's going to bring up a panel that lets me pull out the text that I want. And so here I'm going to swipe over the word get. I'm going to avoid any leading spaces, any trailing spaces. So I'm going to swipe over just GET. And then I can click to extract this value. It replaces it with a star. And get, of course, is called my method. Then I'm going to go over here to the single slash by itself. And I want to grab that single slash. I have a single slash. You may actually have a URL in there. But I'm going to grab that single slash. I'm going to extract it and I'm going to call it URL for Uniform Resource Locator. Now, these fields down here, these fields cannot have spaces in them, and they are separated by commas. Now, I'm going to leave HTTP 1/1 alone. I don't care about it. I'm going to grab this first 3-digit number, which is, of course, my status code. And I want to make sure I grab it without any trailing or leading spaces. And I can see I'm being challenged today with mouse control.
You can just double click it, I think.
The problem is it's grabbing that trailing trailing space. So it would be, yeah, okay, there we go. Double click, there we go. So we'll grab it, status code. And then I'm going to grab the size. And you're right, we can simply double click it. And then I'm going to grab this URL inside of the double quotes. I'm not going to include the double quotes. And that is going to be my referrer. This is who referred me to this site. So I've extracted out my fields. I've given them names. When I click submit, it adds this line of code for me. Now, when I run this, you will see that it has extracted out these fields for me. There's my method, there's my referrer, there's my size, my status code, my URL. If I scroll all the way to the right, there's my original message. So this is where we can extract fields out. Now, a parse anchor, important to know because it's a test question, a parse anchor is only going to be used when your data is consistently formatted. If it's unconditionally formatted or it's kind of all over the place, it's not consistently formatted, you can't use a parse anchor. Maybe you can use a parse regex or something, but not a parse anchor. Now, the other thing too is down here, these are listed alphabetically. If you want to change the order of how they're being displayed, you can use the fields command, but we'll get into that in another class. So I have, you have, we have parsed out this field. For those of you who are having a hard time following along with that, if you go into lab 2 and you scroll down about 2/3 of the way down right before step 10, you'll see there's some code here. You can swipe over that code and use that code. And then if they want to here, you can go into the more action button and you can save this, right? You can do a save as to save this query if you want to. Again, up here, do a save as, and you can save it, give it a name. All right.
Hey, John?
Question?
Yes, hi. I have a question in regards to this parsing of these fields. They have nothing, you can do parsing regardless of whether your administrator set up the parsing of the fields previously?
Correct.
Correct, excellent. Thank you, this is
Correct.
awesome.
Yeah, no, if they parsed and you got field extraction rules, use those. But if they did not, you can parse them yourselves.
Amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I agree. It's a very, very impressive tool.
I have a question. Is using the field extractor rules going to have better performance than using parsing?
Probably going to be about the same,
Okay.
but it's simpler to use the field extraction rules. Okay, so, and it depends on how the field extraction rules were written. You know, parse regexes tend to have a harder performance than parse anchors and other types of parsing mechanisms.
Okay, that's good
It
to
really
know.
depends on how it was written.
Cool.
All right.
A
So that
quick
takes care
question.
of lab 2. What's that?
Yeah, a quick one. So once you extract these fields, you can add another pipe to search by those fields that you extracted.
I'm sorry, once I did what?
So once you extracted those fields,
Yep.
as you did, then you can pipe them to query by those fields.
Pipe them to queries. I mean, I can do other things with those fields, yes. In fact, that's what we're going to do next.
Okay, thanks.
So here in lab 3, which is where I'm going, now what we want to do, now that we've extracted those fields, we're going to count by status code. And so we're going to add to this. And by the way, again, what you add is a shift enter and alt enter. I'm going to type in a pipe and I'm going to say count by, and that field name is called status code. And now when I run this, because I'm doing this count by, I get this aggregates tab. And this aggregates tab now shows me by status code the number of count of messages I have for that. Okay. In fact, in lab 3, what we want to do here is we've counted this, we've created this, but now we want to break it down into 1-minute chunks. Okay. So we're going to use a new operator here called time slice 1M. So before I do my count, I'm going to add a new line, again, a pipe, and I'm going to say time slice 1M. And what time slice does is it's going to break this thing up into 1-minute buckets. And then I am going to go down here and say, I want to count this by time slice, comma, status code. And so now what happens is it's going to create my 15, I get 15 minutes, so 15 buckets. And I can now start seeing my various time slices and my various status codes. Now, again, this time slice here is an operator. There's no underscore in it. The results of my time slice operator is stored in underscore time slice. Then the next thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to add a pipe, and forgive me for going a little fast here. We're running into time issues here, so I'm just trying to get things done. I'm going to go ahead and choose the transpose operator, and I basically want to create a pivot table. I want my time slices on my rows. I want my status codes across my columns. So the command is transpose space row. What do I want on my row? I want underscore time slice. Assuming I can type. And then what do I want in my column? I want my status underscore code. And so now when I run this, I now see here's my time, my time slices, and here's my status codes, and in the middle I have my count. And the reason I want to do that is now in my aggregates here, I can produce column charts or bar charts or line charts or whatever the heck I want. Now, I believe the book wants you to use column charts. I like a line chart. I'm going to use the line chart. Keep in mind that when I add this to a dashboard, which we'll do in just a few minutes, that my users can use this to select or deselect and filter out certain things. They can use your legend here to change things if they want to. Now, ultimately, we've got a little issue here, a business issue. The issue is that, you know, my highest value here is my 200s. And if I'm sending this out to my web server folks, 200s are good things, right? 200s aren't errors. So if I want my folks to investigate errors, I probably want to filter out 200s. Also, the next highest one here is my 304. And my 304 is when I receive something from cache. It is also not really an error. So what I want to do is I want to filter those two things out. And many of you will probably think, well, gee, let's use a filter, a where clause, right, to filter them out. And that's absolutely right. The question is, where do we put that where clause? The best place to put it for performance reason is right after we parse out the field. So we grab the fields, then we're going to inject right here, pipe, where, and then I'm going to say status code equals 200 or status code equals 304. And the problem is if I run this as I've written it, it's going to only show me 200s and 304s. I want to see everything but 200s and 304s. So in front of that first parenthesis there, I'm going to put an exclamation mark. So it now reads where not status code equals 200 or status code equals 304. And now I get the results back that I'm looking for. Okay. All right. So very quickly, what I did here is I quickly kind of went through this exercise using the transpose, creating a chart, filtering my data, right, adding the where clause, all of that good stuff. Now this brings us to lab number 4. And in lab number 4, we want to create a dashboard. Okay. I'm going to go back to my Sumo Logic environment. Here in my aggregates tab, I can display this numerically. I can display this as a bar chart, other charts. And then I have an option to add this to a dashboard. And I'm going to click add to dashboard. And I'm going to give this thing a name, right? Panel, my name here. What do I want to call this panel? Maybe something like my Apache status code, whatever, errors, whatever. And then what do I want to call my dashboard? And we recommend that you put your initials in there to make it easy for you to find, right? And then I might do something like Apache status code. And if I do this, you'll find I've got a few of these. So I am going to actually add, again, today's date in here to keep things to where I can create a new dashboard. So it says create a new dashboard, and I'm going to choose that. Now, important little distinction here. We have 2 types of dashboards currently. We have new dashboards and we have legacy dashboards. We want to create this in a legacy dashboard because, quite frankly, some of the questions that are in the exam are still about legacy dashboards. There are no new dashboard questions in the certification exam. So for those of you who come back tomorrow, we'll actually play in the new dashboard. But for right now, I want you to throw this switch. So my little switch is over here to the left, and it's going to add it to your personal folder. And I click add. And now it's going to create a new legacy dashboard for us to put things in. And if I want to, of course, for my over 50-year-old eyes, I want to make this a bit bigger so I can actually see it. Thank you very much. And so here in my legacy dashboards, and you'll find the new dashboards have all kinds of new functionality, new capabilities, but they also lack some of the capabilities in this legacy dashboard. We hope to have all that resolved here in about the next quarter. So then we'll start thinking about maybe doing away with our old legacy dashboards. But here, if I click on the more action button here, you'll see I can add a panel. In the legacy dashboard, the only panel that you can add is either a title panel or a text and title panel. Okay. In the new dashboard, you'll find that you can add any kind of query, any kind of panel and stuff like that. We'll actually see some of that in the next lab. So just bear with me. So here in my title, I'm going to put something like Apache status codes. And then in text, these are the errors our customers are getting. And I can hit submit, and I can make this a bit bigger if I want to. If I want to change the order of this, because normally we read left to right, top to bottom. So maybe I want to move this over to the left, then go down here and grab this. Oops, excuse me. Go down and grab this and drag it up to the right, although I got to shrink this down a little bit. There we go. Bottom line is you can manipulate this and oops. And level it out and make it look the way you want it to look. Oops. Now, I'll tell you what. Get nothing but attitude here today from this machine. So there we go. Now I can also go up here and I can also toggle my theme. And I can make it dark. Do you want dark? Do you want light? Pretty simple stuff, right? Ultimately, when I'm done editing this, I can click done editing. And so now this can be consumed by my users. They can go in here and they can filter out and filter in and use this and interact with this if they want to. Now, what's going to happen here is every 15 minutes, this dashboard is going to refresh. If I want to, I can tell it to use live mode. And so as new data comes in, the old data will get pushed out. This becomes a rolling 15 minutes. And that live mode capability is not yet in our new dashboards, which is one of the reasons why we are doing this the way we're doing this. Okay. Now, if you want to, and if you need to go back in here and edit this, here's where the test question comes in. If you create this in the old dashboards and you need to edit this, you click on this pencil icon, and then you can go back and you can edit it and change it and have yourself a good old time. Again, when you're done editing, click done editing. But this pencil is how you go back and edit it. Test question, okay? All right.
And if, let's say we wanted to drill down into a specific subsection of that graph, we could like shift, click and drag, for example. Is that how we do that?
Actually, the best thing to do in this case is to probably, I'm sorry, go back to the underline query, and then you could probably go in here and filter and play around or do what you want to do. Okay. There is no easy way to, I want to highlight this section, right? So I'm trying to drag here, nothing's happening. So there's not an easy way to do that. Okay. You'll find in some of our tools, we do have that capability. And I know it's something they're working on with the new dashboards. So, but not these. So I want to be honest. So lab 4, we created and shared a dashboard, and that's basically that. And of course, you can share this, right? It's in your personal folder. You can share it with others, so forth and so on. Now, in lab 5, we are going to modify an existing dashboard. So here, remember earlier, we installed the Apache app. So I'm going to go back here. I'm going to go back into my personal folder. I'm going to find my Apache folder that I created earlier, my Apache overview. Now, this was done in the new dashboards. And so in the new dashboards, what I want to do is I want to modify this query, the visitor location query. And in the new dashboards, by the way, if I want to add a panel or something in here, I can click on this and I can add all kinds of panels. All right. So as I said, in the new dashboard, we've got all kinds of neat, nifty functionality here, but we don't have a live mode yet. In this case, what I want to do is I want to filter my visitor locations, and I only want to see data for the United States. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this more action button here, and I'm going to edit this. That's what I want to do here is I want to edit this, and you can see I can edit it in the dashboard. And again, I'm seeing here's my query, here's my results. And what I simply want to do, and this is where the magic happens that make this a map query. This geo lookup, and we'll talk about it tomorrow. We have a whole lab on the geo lookup where we have a partnership with a company called Newstar. We send them the IP address. They give us, this is how we send it to them. They can give us the latitude, the longitude, the country code, the country name, and all kinds of stuff. And so right here is where you and I, in order to filter for the United States, where we can add a pipe, we can add a where clause, assuming I can type. And we can say something like country name equals, and here's where we get into that double quotation. Double quote, United States has a space in it. So I have to type it in exactly. Now I could use country name equals United States, or I could also use country code equals US. But when I rerun this query, you will now notice that I only see data for the United States. And if I want to, I can update this dashboard. So now it's going to take my query here. And now if I want to, I can go in here and refocus it and resume it. And so we wanted to show you how you can modify an existing dashboard.
Is there a way that you can like basically link the different graphs in the dashboard together so that, for example, you could maybe click on the orange dot there and filter the rest of the graphs on the dashboard to only show data for that specific location?
You could. In fact, we could add a filter up here for pick the country and create a pick list. We teach that typically, believe it or not, in the security class, the security analytics class, on how to do filters and stuff like that. But here over here where it says, and this is off my more action button, here's where I link my dashboards and stuff together. Here's where I can filter and take care of that. Okay. So that dashboard linking is where we do that. Stack linking. And again, because of time right now, I really don't want to go down that just yet. Now, in lab 6, what we want to do here is we want to create an alert. Now, there's lots of ways to create an alert in this product. And so normally, if you want to create an alert, you could go into manage data and monitoring, and you can write an expression, either a metric or a log query, and then you could specify certain values and all that stuff. We teach this new monitoring technique in our admin class just because we don't have time for it here. In the old days, back when the product was first created, the way that we would monitor something, the way that we would create an alert is we would go into a query. And in this case, I'm going to go into this visitor location query. And this time I want to open it up as a log search. So here I am back in my log search interface. And in my log search interface over here, there is a save as option where I can save it. And down here is where I can schedule it. So if you want to create an alert for test purposes, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go ahead and click on this more action button and click save as. Then you can go in here and you can schedule it to run based on whatever time you want. And then you can also define some criteria for your alert. But basically this is going to run, and this could email me, or it could make a webhook into Slack or, Teams or whatever you want. So lots of different things we can do with this if this condition exists. So what happens is we specify a time we want it to run. We want to be notified every time the search is complete or if a condition is met. And then once we do, what do we want to do? Do I want to send an email? Do I want to create a lookup? Do I want to create an index? What do I want to do? I want a script action, maybe to block down some ports or something. Who do I want to send this to? What kind of information here do I want? By the way, there'll be a test question here with regards to which of the following is available when you email out an alert. And the answer I think they're looking for is result set. result set. The other three are not valid choices. Okay. Just trying to help you out. So that's one way we create an alert. Again, you got to go into the save as option, and that allows you to then schedule this and then create an alert this way. This is something we've always had in our product for many, many years. This new alerting I was talking about, we've only had here in the last year. That's something fairly new. And like I said, in the admin class, we'll get into that. And that should take care of lab 6. The good news is we have one more lab left, lab 7. And guess what? Lab 7 we already did. Lab 7 is all about our documentation, all about our community hub. If you need to send a message or contact support, a lot of different ways you can do it. You can send an email to support@sumologic.com. You can go into our help. You can go into support here. You can go to our support site, support.sumologic.com. Lots of different ways of getting to support. Again, a test question. And that pretty much takes care of lab 7. Now, I have cut into your exam time here about 30 minutes. I will be here for the next hour. So I'm going to give you 60 minutes to take the exam. But I also want to show you how to get in and take your exam. So I'm not quite done just yet. Are there any questions about the course so far? All right. What I'd like you all to do is I'd like you all to log out of the Sumo Logic training environment. Why? Because you're logged in as training analyst with some crazy number. When you take your exam and you pass it, I want to make sure you, by your name, get credit for it. So I want you to log out of the training environment, and I want you to log into your company's Sumo Logic environment where you are listed by your name. Okay.
Hey, John, sorry
Yes.
to interrupt. So we use like a single sign-on.
Yep.
And right now I'm not using my company laptop. So do I have to do this through? Oh no, I'm sorry. I see the identity provider. I didn't even see that at the bottom. I'm sorry. Forget it.
Okay, no problem. And so Dorinda, we will share the video link after this training. Obviously, the video link's going on right now, so I've got to eventually stop it, and it would be our operations folks will send it out to you. So yes, so good question. All right, so what I want you to do is log in. For those of you who do not have a Sumo account, you can request one. So there is a way that you and I can start a free trial if you need to. So for those of you who do not have a Sumo Logic account with your company, you can sign up for a free trial. Okay. Now, I do want you to go to your company's environment or sign up for a free trial, either one. And I want to make sure you log in with your name. So that down here it has your name, right? Rather than training analyst, whatever. Okay. All right. Very good. Now, in order to get in here, there's an interesting little feature that we have. Some people call it a bug. It's actually a security feature. Okay, I'm actually in Sumo a few days. Francesco, I'm not sure what that means, but it doesn't let you log in, Francesco. Is that the problem?
Yeah, it doesn't make me log in. Yeah.
Okay. Are you a Sumo employee or?
Yeah, since few days. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have access to customer usage?
Yeah, I mean inside the laptop of the company.
Okay. Right. You should be able to go to customer usage, and you should be able to use that. You should be able to use any Sumo Logic environment.
Yeah.
Any Sumo environment that you have access to.
Yeah, I try again. Should be my Okta. Yeah. Okay.
You and I can work this offline. So anyway, the issue is this. When the way we want to go into certification is you would normally click on the Home tab. You would click on the Certification tab, and you would click Get Certified. However, for some of you, if not many of you, when you click Get Certified, it's going to take you back to here. And people think it's a bug. It's actually a security feature. we don't want to let you move from one environment to another without your permission, right? We don't want to move you from Sumo to our LMS or Sumo to some other environment without your permission, okay? That's the problem. So the way we're going to fix this, and I'm going to do a preemptive on this, I'm going to ask you all to follow along with me and make sure that we do a preemptive on this. So if you would all open, if you're logged into your company's environment, I want you to open up help. And I want you to click on community, okay? Jeff asked a really good question. How do I log out? The way you log out, Jeff, is you open up the navigation panel. Down here on the lower left-hand corner, you should see the account you're logged in as. And if you click on that, you'll see there's a sign out button, okay? And that's how you sign out. So hopefully that solves your question and we're good to go. All right. Now, what I'd like all of you to do is when you're logged into your company's Sumo Logic environment, I'd like you all to click on help. I'd like you all to click on community. Now, when you click on community, you may see a pop-up appear that says something like, we want to verify your email address. And it's got a little button on it that says verify email address. I want you to click on that. Click on that button. This is how we fix this little problem about not being able to move from one environment to another. Click on that button, and then in about a minute or less, you should have an email from Sumo Logic. And if you find that email from Sumo Logic, there will be a button on that email where basically you're giving Sumo the ability to be able to let you move from one environment to another. So you find that email, you click on that button, this problem now goes away. Won't be a problem again, ever again, okay? It goes away. Okay. What if there isn't a button? Marvin, can you be more specific? Where isn't there a button? And when you go into this page, there's no button? There's nothing that happens, or?
Yeah, so I'm at the community page and I see my, my name, and I see everything you see, but I'm not seeing that
Good. Then you probably don't have this problem. It's probably fixed for you.
Just making sure.
Yeah, if you're not experiencing this, this is okay. Okay.
Great.
Nadja, if you're getting a 500 server error, that is related to this. Hang on a second. Let's do this. Help.sumologic.com. Going to our documentation. I am going to our first chapter here. Start here. And about Sumo Logic, or getting started. I think it's under getting started. There we go. Certification frequently asked questions. So here in this lovely document, talking about how to navigate and get to an exam. If you can't get here, I think that's down here. Exams like trouble accessing the exam environment. If you click on this link, here's what happens if you're starting to see some of these issues. You're getting a 500 error or whatever. Ultimately, what you can do if you're having problems is you can reach out to our tech support folks. But I'm going to go ahead and put this link in here, and you're welcome to look over the stuff in this link and see if you can work through some of these issues. Now, if those of you who aren't having any issues, hopefully now you're logged into your Sumo Logic environment, your company's Sumo Logic environment, and all you have to do is click on this home tab, click on this certification page, click on get certified, and it will take you into our learning management environment. And here you can see what our passwords are. We update this every time we change the passwords. Here you can also see all of our various courses and certification areas and all that good stuff. Now, before I get into taking the fundamentals exam and walk you through something, I want to point something out to you. Up here in the upper right-hand corner is your profile. And in your profile, you can see any exams that you complete. You can view their certificates if you want to. You can also add them to LinkedIn if you want to. Now, if you don't have any certifications, that's fine. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So again, I can see my certificate, can download this, have myself a good time, whatever. I can add this to my LinkedIn page. Now, I just mentioned this to you because I'm about to set something up that I need to come back and reference this. So your exam is here in the LMS. It's under fundamentals. And under fundamentals, we have an exam in English. We have an exam in Japanese. We have an exam in Spanish. This is the self-paced course. Same material I went over, but here's the exam. So I'm going to take the exam in English. When you do that, there'll be a little button up here for you to register. You click on that button, poof, you're instantly registered. Now, what I'd like you all to do is please do not follow me. Just watch me for a second, okay? There's a story here I'm trying to tell, and I need to not get you confused with what's going on, okay? Okay. Interesting. Stephen says, when requesting the email, you're getting a verification email cannot be sent. That means that on your account, we don't have your email address in there. When we create an account, it should have your email address, your first name, and your last name. They didn't put your email address in there, it looks like. You need to talk to your Sumo administrator.
Actually, it is. And I requested the email and it failed. So I requested it again and it failed. And then the third time around, it came up with that verification email could not be sent.
Oh, okay. Do me a favor. You're probably have to reach out to our support department to figure out what's going on. I assume you checked your spam folders and all that stuff.
Sure.
Okay. Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's just the emails failed.
Okay.
I mean, they came through. They just, I'll get with support.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Okay. So in here, like I said, you click on the registration button and boom, you're instantly registered. Now, again, don't follow me. Do not click along with me. Just rather watch, please. Just bear with me. So it says here before you start, it tells you this exam has 30 questions. You're going to have 60 minutes to complete it, and I'll be here for at least 60 minutes. Okay. The exams are open note, open book, open documentation. You can even ask the instructor. The types of questions are fill in the blank, matching text, multiple choice, et cetera, et cetera. A passing score is 75%. Okay, great. Then when I click next, it proceeds to take me to my exam. There's my 60-minute counter, my 1 hour counter. I can either click start as assessment or I can start scrolling down. Okay. When I start scrolling down to where I start seeing questions, my timer starts. Now, I'm going to answer a couple of questions here just for fun. When overlaying logs on top of metrics, that orange log display bar displays the top of the metrics chart. The relative number of messages is represented by the intensity of the orange color, i.e. deeper orange, more messages. Is that statement true or false? That statement is true, right? Talked about it. As a new user to Sumo Logic, you've been urgently tasked to analyze your org's Apache logs. What's the best practice? Well, the best practice is to check and see if the org has any contents that's already there. The second best thing then is to install the Apache app, which hopefully can help you, or then ultimately you have to start building from scratch. The hardest thing to do is building from scratch. So I've answered these first two questions. Now I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom and I'm going to submit my score. And the reason I'm doing this is to show you something very important. So when I click next, it says, John, you didn't pass. No kidding. I know I didn't pass. But I can see over here the questions I got right, the questions I got wrong. And most importantly, remember I talked about that profile earlier? If you don't click the submit button, it doesn't add it to your profile. So please, and this is the reason I'm doing this, please click the submit button when you pass the exam. If you don't pass the exam, I don't care if you click submit or not, quite frankly. But if you pass it, feel free to hit that submit button so it adds it to your profile. And then you can go in and you can see your certificate and you can add it to LinkedIn and all that good stuff. Okay. So don't forget that submit button. The other thing is if you don't pass it, you can take it again as many times as you want to. All right. So if you have a hard time passing it, you can take it again if you want. And again, please take advantage of me being here. If you see a question that doesn't make sense to you, please ask me. I will help you. Okay.
John, how do we take it again? I mean, if
How
we
do
are
you
not
get there
submitting
again?
it,
Is that the question?
yeah. How do we take it again? I mean, like follow the procedure again?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, all you have to do to take it again is, go. Let me go back out here for a second. Overview, leave site. Yeah, you just go back in here and click on it again.
All right.
So yeah, it's real simple. Go back into the learning management system and take it again. Or again, if you're in this title screen, you know, or better yet, in this title screen, you know, you can go in here at any time and you can take the exam by simply going in here and finding the exam in English, unless you speak Japanese or Spanish. I recommend English. So, take the exam. So, any
John,
other questions, ladies and gentlemen?
I have one. This is a great class. I really appreciate this. Unfortunately, I have to cut off. I can just take this on my own, right?
Yep.
Okay, great.
I understand. That's fine. Yeah, I realize we ran long, and so some of you have to bug out. I get that. Naja asked a question: how long are these certification classes valid for? I assume you're asking how long the certifications are once you pass them. This fundamentals is good for 2 years. All of the other ones we have are good for 1 year. So that's how long they are. How long can you access these exams? Anytime now. So you can take them as long as you want to. If you want to get the Uber Eats certificate I mentioned today, you definitely want to take it today. Okay. So again, we taught the class. We want you to take it immediately, and I'll define immediately as within the day. And then, like I said, send us email training@sumologic.com, your copy of your certificate with your email address, and we'll send you a $15 Uber Eats voucher. Okay. Okay. Vera asked, where is the link for the test? Vera, where are you? Are you in the LMS or not? Or are you in Sumo Logic? And by the way, Vera, just to help you out, if you're in Sumo Logic, you click on the House tab, you click on Certification, you click on Get Certified. That will hopefully take you into our learning management system. And then from here, you want the fundamentals tile. That's the class that we're in. So you click on the fundamentals tile, and then here you can see all of the exam in English, the exam in Japanese, the exam in Spanish. You click on this, there's a button here to register, and then you click on these links. So hopefully, Vera, that answers your question now. Okay. Okay. Yep. Somebody asked, what about the India guys? Uber Eats won't work. And you're absolutely right. I'm sorry. We are trying to work with a company out there and trying to set something up like an Uber Eats equivalent. And we are trying to do that. But right now, we don't have that set up. So right now, Sanjit, I don't have a good story to tell you. I'm sorry. All right. And then, okay. John asked, and these are available, Anton, in our Sumo portal. I'm not sure what you're asking there. On our Sumo portal, yep. Yep. And so you guys should be able to log in from your company's Sumo Logic portal into this exam. I think that's what we're asking for. Any other questions, ladies and gentlemen? Okay. What's your question, John? Make sure your mic's enabled there. Oh, a couple of you don't. Sorry about that, John. There's your mic. Your mic's enabled. Sorry.
No, you answered my question. My question was just, are they available on our Sumo Logic portals within our companies? And you answered that. So thank you.
From any Sumo Logic environment, you should be able to get to our LMS. So your companies, my companies, doesn't make any difference. All right. Any other questions, ladies and gentlemen? All right. Then I'm going to be quiet. I am going to actually hold on before I do that. Again, let me turn my camera on here and say goodbye, give you a proper goodbye. So thank you all for spending the day with us this morning with us. And again, we will be teaching this again this afternoon, and we'll be teaching some other classes later in this week. If you want to learn more, look forward to seeing you. Otherwise, I am going to stop the recording.